It's my joy today to introduce our guest speaker. And our speaker today is a wonderful presenter who learned much of what she knows about business from growing up as the youngest of 10 children in Hawaii. And I happen to know a couple of her siblings, and I know that they are not shy people. And so I know what that was like, must have been like. Differentiating herself in the shadow of 9 siblings required her to develop and use the sales and negotiating skills that she is famous for today. May McCarthy has become the quintessential serial entrepreneur starting at the age of 6, where she got her first lesson in food inventory shrinkage as her brothers literally ate her profits. Over the past 34 years, May has used metaphysical and spiritual practices to grow 6 successful businesses in a variety of industries, with the largest having more than 250 employees and over $100 million in annual revenues. Now that's a person I want to learn from. May is a member of the Center for Spiritual Living in Seattle and has been a grateful student of Ernest Holmes, Emma Curtis Hopkins, and other New Thought teachers as taught by Reverend Kathy Ann Lewis and May's sister, Reverend Sharon Ramey. And I want to mention Reverend Sharon Ramey is in charge of the business ministry in Seattle. So this is a thing that runs in the family. They are fantastic business people. May now travels the world on purpose, and that purpose is to elevate prosperity and freedom for all. And she shares the spiritual success principles through her best-selling book, The Path to Wealth. May is here today to emphasize the importance of connecting with spirit as your source of intelligence and abundance to achieve greater levels of success, happiness, and freedom. Please join me in giving a warm Reading welcome to May McCarthy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, I am so happy to be here. I have the best job in the world. I get to travel around the world and see all the beautiful faces of God. Does it get any better than that? Not really, right? Before we get started, can I see with a show of hands how many people here would like to have better health, with every cell in their body filled with healed light, in a pain-free body that has lots of energy and is able to move freely anytime you want? Yeah? Okay. Would anybody like to have great relationships with all of their family and friends and coworkers, customers, suppliers? Anybody? Okay. Would anyone out there like to have more money and the freedom to do whatever you would like to do whenever you'd like to do it? Okay, I think we're in the right place. And for those of you that didn't raise your hands, first of all, I want to talk to you afterwards so I can learn something from you. But also for your next 20 some odd minutes, as you meditate, please keep us all in prayer. All right? Thank you so much for having me today. I just love being here. This is my kind of weather. It looks just like Seattle. It does. It really does. Now, I actually was introduced to metaphysical practices in 1981. My mother, who is a devout Catholic, who converted from being Seventh-day Adventist, had given her 10th child a book published in 1925 called The Game of Life and How to Play It. I took that book off to college with me and found it to be a miracle maker. I used the principles described by Florence Scovel Shinn, and I was able to graduate from college with honors in 3 years while growing a company with 250 employees. It was easy. She told me that I could rely on these spiritual principles to decide what I wanted and easily achieve it if I just believed it. And I believed it. That principle of being able to use our words, thoughts, and emotions to acquire what we want in life and bless the world has been something I've lived by all my life. Well, as you heard, I'm the last of 10 children, and I believe that spiritual centers like this are a place where you get community. You get to experience community and support. So I pretty much followed Sharon, because we both live in Seattle, wherever she went. I still had my relationship with spirit, with the divine, and was able to use the spiritual principles discussed and talked about in Science of Mind. But I just followed Sharon wherever she went, and we had community. And she ended up at Center for Spiritual Living in Seattle and got very excited about following the ministerial track. And I'd show up because, again, it was community. Well, I started to take some classes, and I'm a very firm believer in the law of giving and receiving. I'm a tither. I can tell you it is the single greatest thing you can do to increase the amount of wealth that you have in your life is to tithe. Somehow God figures out how you can get that extra money to make that commitment. But I was a tither, and so the spiritual leadership asked me, what are you doing? What are you doing that is enabling you to give in such great quantity? And I wasn't sure if that was a trick question. So what I did was I said, well, I'm doing what you've been teaching me to do. Isn't that right? They said, no, you're doing something different because the size of your tithes are pretty substantial. Tell us what you're doing to use these principles. So I said that I do admit I am a self-proclaimed efficiency expert. I hate to waste time. I really do. And what I love about Centers for Spiritual Living and this New Thought movement is we're invited to try stuff on. We can try on meditation. We can try on treatment. We can try on different ways to use spiritual principles that are taught for centuries. And we can figure out what our unique way to communicate and to relate to spirit is. Would you all agree with that? Yeah. So I had devised my own system that was very efficient and very effective. And they asked me, would you please consider teaching that? So I did start to teach it, and I supply in my workbook, because I'm sort of that overachiever, I've trained thousands of salespeople, customer service people, managers, executives, leaders, all sorts of people that have worked for my 6 companies. And I've taught them to do their jobs very, very effectively while blessing the world. So I started teaching this idea of this partnership with a CSO. And what ended up happening is after about the 500th person that had gone through this workshop, they asked me to write a book, because you get a 27-page workbook in the workshop, but you don't get the stories that I tell about the application. So I wrote a book so that this idea, this thing that can be tried on by more and more people around the world, could have an ability to be used. And I'm delighted that people are latching on to it and that they're able to use this to live a better life. But my topic today is partnering with your chief spiritual officer for success and freedom. You may be wondering, what in the world is a chief spiritual officer? For me, it's that characteristic of spirit that is the ultimate advisor, who guides me and directs me and shows me what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and makes my life easy because all I have to do is my job. As a CEO, I surround myself in my C-suite with people whose advice I value. I have a chief financial officer that advises me on the financial health of our company. A chief operations officer that advises me on the operations, how we're doing, and a chief information officer that describes the best technology that should be used in our company. So I decided to bring spirit into our company. And I gave it the title Chief Spiritual Officer, and actually placed it at the top of my org chart. And so that I, as the CEO, reported to it. You can imagine what my employees said. Who is the CSO? Is it a man or a woman? Do we get to meet him or her? And my response was, the CSO is a representation of our company being a miracle-making company. There are things that are going to happen, and you need to watch for it. There are things that are going to happen that cannot be explained rationally, that end up being for our company's good and for the good of all concerned. When you see that, don't even think about trying to rationalize it. just know that it's the CSO. And I'd love to hear text messages, voicemails, emails telling me what happened that was extraordinary and beyond your imagination. I got stuff from my employees every single day. They went out expecting and watching for miracles to happen, for things that could happen without any rational explanation. Does that sound a little bit like Signs of Mine? Yeah. So all my employees were going out, and these were employees that were every race, every faith, gender, age group. No one was offended by this idea that we had an ultimate advisor. And we did become a miracle-making company. Our competitors in my last 4 businesses were Fortune 20 companies. These are giant, giant companies. And a little tiny startup comes into each of their industries and becomes market share leader. Because we had the CSO helping us and guiding us and enabling us to take advantage of opportunities that ensured that we would be successful. This was really, really important. What we got to the point in our companies is that miracles became typicals for us. Now, in addition to being successful in our businesses as a result of this principle, CSO also helps us in a number of other areas of our life. In 1994, the CSO saved my life. I had this picture. I was at a business meeting, and all of a sudden I have this picture of my sister's face in my mind's eye. Anybody ever have like a strong thought or a picture that shows up in your mind, just sort of flies in out of the blue? Well, that's what happened to me, and I knew from this practice that that was an intuitive lead given to me by the CSO, and that I needed to act on it. So I happened to be close to my sister's office, and I just stopped by. Oh my gosh, she was so happy to see me. She had a computer problem that I could fix for free. So I'm sitting there at her computer, fixing her computer problem, and she notices through my nylons a little tiny dot on the outside of my right leg. Tiny, tiny, tiny. And she says, "What is that?" Well, you heard in the introduction, I'm from Hawaii, and I'm fair. So I said it was a freckle. She said she didn't feel that it was a freckle, and asked me to please contact her dermatologist to have it looked at. Well, I was just about to dismiss her fear and tell her she had nothing to worry about, and my gut hurt. Anybody ever have a feeling in your gut that's just like this pang, right? This intelligence is trying to tell us something. So I knew from this practice that that meant I needed to act on her advice, and I made the appointment and went to see the dermatologist. Well, I'm the last of 10 children, raised by a surgeon. Now, surgeons consider themselves to be right about here with God. Sometimes a little bit above even, yeah. And I was trained, as all of my brothers and sisters were, to really take the advice of any medical professional. They know more than you do. They're smarter than you are. They're more experienced. They've seen it all. This is their profession. Don't question them. So the dermatologist tells me it's nothing to worry about and you can go home. And just as I was about to heed his advice, my gut hurt again. And I said, "Doctor, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but you got to cut that out." He was barely able to get one stitch in. It was that small. I came back a week later to a diagnosis of malignant melanoma, Clark's level 3. CSO saved my life. Now, in Signs of Mine, we are taught to know the perfection of someone. I can look at you and know you are perfectly healed. You are whole and complete. Every cell in your body is filled with healed light. I've got that one down. All of us absolutely know lots of people that have been healed by the power of Spirit, right? But we can also use this same power in other areas of our life. My definition for wealth is being whole and complete, lacking nothing in all areas of your life. So you could use it for business. You could use it for finances. In fact, there are some very, very famous people who say they rely on spiritual intuition for success. Bill Gates said often you have to rely on intuition. I think he was just ranked the wealthiest man in the world again. And Steve Jobs of Apple agreed when he advised us to have courage to follow our heart and intuition. And Oprah Winfrey has said that she has listened to that still small voice of intuition her entire life. And the only times that she's made mistakes, when she didn't listen. So Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Thomas Edison, and hundreds of other successful people say they rely on spiritual intuition for success. Why aren't we all using it? Well, I think probably it's because we're not taught to listen to that still small voice of intuition. And thank God there are centers like this that are teaching more and more people how to do that. But for most people in the world, we're not taught to listen and act on that still small voice of intuition. In fact, when you have a question, or not when you have a question, but when someone you know has a question, what do? They Google it, right? Come on, be honest, right? We Google it, we research it, we talk to our friends, we talk to other subject matter experts, and we evaluate everything before we make a decision, right? This is yes, May. Yeah, okay? Right? Be honest. We're in church. You're healed. You're forgiven. So, but that's what we do. Our rational mind wants so much to understand what is going to be behind this decision that we search all this information out before we make a decision. Albert Einstein put it perfectly. He said that we have an intuitive mind that's a sacred gift. And we have this rational mind, which is a faithful servant. But somehow we've created this society that honors this rational mind, this servant, and has forgotten the gift. So what I hope to do today is to help you to remember what you already know, and that is that this intuitive mind is a gift, and how we can partner with that characteristic of spirit in order to enable our intuition and our subconscious to show up more often to help us achieve our goals. And it's really, really simple and fun. It really does become a game. So to start, as part of my overachiever efficiency expert, I did give you some notes that are located in your program, a cheat sheet of sorts. If you don't have one, please raise your hand, and one will be brought to you. So the first step is to recognize that spirit, divine intelligence, loving God, infinite power of the universe, wants us to achieve all of our heart's desires. Anything we desire or require, this abundant universe wants us to experience it. But it stands to reason that in order to do that, you actually have to know what you want. You have to know what your goals are, and you have to word them in such a way that's very similar to your treatment process. Describe it as though it's already complete with gratitude. So instead of saying something like, I want to lose 10 pounds, which of course, to achieve that goal of wanting to lose 10 pounds, to be wanting to lose, the goal is to be wanting to lose. Well, in order to be wanting to lose, you always have to be 10 pounds overweight. You see, a better goal would be, I'm so grateful that I am physically fit, trim, toned, energetic in this strong and healthy body that is pain-free and easily able to go on walks and hikes with my family and friends. And you might even add, and I'm eternally youthful and increasingly more beautiful. Well, you know, you gotta have a goal, right? You gotta have a goal. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you can partner with this characteristic of spirit. Now, let me be very clear. I am not saying that there is any separation. We are all one. It is all one. We are one with divine. But we do, in Science of Mind, call spirit by different characteristic names. We call it love, power, infinite intelligence, peace, right? So I choose to call the advisor characteristic the CSO, and I advise you to pick a name. Pick a characteristic name that describes the ultimate advisor. And write that down on your sheet. Or think about it and use that. We are human. We are in a human condition. And sometimes the ideas of having a partnership with this characteristic might seem like separation. It's not. We are just acknowledging that the ultimate advisor characteristic of spirit is becoming more visible, more obvious, if we do our part. Now, in this relationship, you have clear roles and responsibilities that you both will follow. Your job is to figure out what it is that you want and be grateful for it in advance as though you've already achieved it. Describe the outcome. The CSO's job is to create the path and give you one step to take at a time along the path to achieve your goals. How many of you have ever worked for a living? Okay? Right. So if you worked for a company or you started a company, there are remarkable talents and skills that you have that you bring to your position. And you are able to share that with your company to elevate the mission and the vision for the company, right? Would you ever consider barging in to another person's office and start doing their job for them? Maybe somebody would, but for the most part, they're hired to do their job, right? And you're hired to do yours, and that's what you both do. Why do we keep trying to do God's job? Your job is to figure out what it is that you want. Your good, as Emma and Ernest call it. Spirit's job is to create the path and give you one step to take at a time along that path. And here's the part that really drives people nuts. If they don't understand the step they're supposed to take and what the possible outcome is going to be, they do nothing. You are no longer allowed to do nothing. Here's what you can do. If you're given a lead to take a step and you don't understand it, you can ask for another lead. You cannot do nothing anymore. And here's how that goes. Everybody tilt your head up just a little bit and say after me, I need another lead. I need another lead. That's it. I'd love to make it more complicated, but it's not. You just ask for another lead. CSO, I don't know if this is from you. I need another lead. Let me give you an example. I travel in my businesses about 200,000 miles a year, domestic. It's a lot of traveling. And I have it down. I land in a city, I get my luggage, I get my rent-a-car, I go to the hotel and drop everything off, and then I go to the closest grocery store to get water and protein shakes and my supplies that I need for my stay. I did this in Cleveland, and as I'm sitting in the car, on the way, getting ready to go to the grocery store, I have this very strong thought to go to a grocery store that I know that's 15 minutes away. So here comes the rational mind. May. It's It's 9 o'clock at night in Cleveland. Your appointment is tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I want to remind you that that's 5 o'clock in the morning Seattle time. You're going to be really, really, really tired. Why in the world are you going to waste an extra 10 minutes each way driving to a grocery store when the grocery store that's 5 minutes away is perfectly fine? How many of you can identify with this? Right. So, again, my job is to tell my rational mind to stop. And you figuratively go, stop. I need another lead. And sure enough, I get this real warm feeling that I should just make the drive. And my intuitive mind shows up. May, it's 9 o'clock, that's true, but it's really only 6 o'clock in Seattle. You can't go to sleep anyway, it's too early. And who knows, maybe everything you want at the new grocery store that's 15 minutes away will be on sale. It won't be a wasted trip. This will be for your good. Just make the drive. So I made the drive. And as I'm walking into the grocery store, who should be walking out at exactly the same time? A potential customer that I had met 6 months before at a trade show, who I had been calling and emailing for an appointment, who never returned any of my calls or emails. Hi, how are you? So good to see you. And we strike up this conversation. And he learns how our company has grown in the 6 months and invites me to make a presentation during my visit to Cleveland. My goal at that time for my company was to have a minimum increase of $400,000 in revenues by a certain date. That appointment led to another and another, and eventually a contract that was worth over $500,000. Now let me ask you this. For those of you that are overachievers like me, and we're taught in business school to create a goal and all the steps that lead up to it, how many of you would say, okay, here's my goal, $400,000. First step, drive to a different grocery store in Cleveland. Right? Does that sound like water coming out of rocks, food falling from heaven, Red Seas parting? That's the way this works. When you achieve a goal and turn around and look at the path, you're just going to shake your head and laugh because you're led to do things that don't make rational sense. The third thing for you to recognize is that you have to meet regularly with your source of intuition, with that ultimate characteristic of ultimate advisor. You have to meet daily. How many of you have heard the phone ring and you knew who it was? Yeah? You probably had a relationship with that person. I can tell when Sharon's calling, because we have a very close relationship. But I can't tell when other people are calling because I don't have a relationship like that with them. The same is true with this daily meeting that you'll have with your ultimate advisor, with your CSO. Setting aside time every single day. And like I said, I'm an efficiency expert, so I made it really simple. And we are going to go over that today, those 7 steps in the workshop. It's a hands-on, with exercises, workshop, but I don't have time to discuss every step with you today. But you want to meet every single day with your source of intuition. And you'll begin to notice what the gut instincts mean, what the flashes, what the ideas, the thoughts. I've even had billboard messages mean something to me when I'm asking for a definite lead. And you can have the same thing. Now, one of the interesting things is I speak at a lot of churches around the country, and many of them, like you, have pledge drives. You can make a goal, one of your goals, to be a really fully supportive character who shows up and donates in a meaningful way to your church. All you have to do is make that a goal. I am so grateful that I now fully support my center, so that we are able to do amazing work. One of my friends in Seattle had wanted to do that, and he complained that he didn't have enough money. He barely made ends meet, and he couldn't give. I said, why are you saying you can't give when you could leave it up to God? You could leave that extra money up to God. Just make the commitment to give. So he did. He decided to give on unexpected income. He had never given in his life. And when he made that commitment, he found, the first week, $50. He found some money in old pockets. He got dining cards from friends that were worth, $30 here. He found $50, and he gave $5 that next week. The following week, he went on a hike with his dog, and they always go the same route. Any dog owners out there? Always take the same route when you take your dog for a walk? Right. So he was in this park ready to do the same thing, and the dog pulled him off onto a different path. And as he was walking along, he found a rolled up wad of money with a rubber band around it. And he knew somebody lost it. So he waited there with his dog for over an hour. Nobody came back. So he counted it out. It was $325, thanked his CSO, and gave $32.50 that next week. Within a matter of months, he started to trust this. I mean, it kept happening. God was providing more money for him to give. And he decided that he would take a chance and give on his after-tax paycheck, plus unexpected income. Within a very short time, his boss called him into the office and said, something about you that has changed. You just seem to be really helpful and happy, and we're really impressed with the work that you're doing. Here's a 20% raise. You can't outgive God, but you can use this practice to be a really, really meaningful giver. You can make the goal to be a fully supportive member of your center. So in closing, what I'd love to do is have us read together what Ernest Holmes says about this spiritual partnership. And it's on the bottom of your sheet. I know that I am, you can read along with me. I know that I am in partnership with the infinite. I identify myself with this partnership, knowing that it always leads to success. I accept that the action of infinite intelligence is back of everything. It is always manifesting itself, and it now does so through the thought pattern of success I am establishing for myself. Conditions and situations about me now start to correspond to my new ideas about them. The invisible presence and power indwelling and surrounding me, which is forever making manifest my thought, now creates for me the success which I have identified my thought. May you all be blessed. May you be prospered. May you be healthy and happy in harmonious relationships. And may you, as Emma Curtis Hopkins and Ernest Holmes said, may you receive your good. And I would add that you should have it now. Thank you so much.
Serve